Up and humming?
Up and thumbing.
Up and woman.
Up and summing. Up and strumming. On today's show, we tread hollow ground, welcoming into the studio a local legend, Phil Caffrey.
With an illustrious career spanning roughly several decades, Phil is one of 4 Caffrey brothers. 3
of which have performed together since starting back in the 60s.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
The band of brothers' career peaked after they were signed to DJM Records alongside the likes of Elton John,
who, incidentally, is our guest on next week's show.
Back in the real world, it was at this time that Phil released 2 critically acclaimed albums, Time and Again, and mirroring the name of the band at the time, Arbor.
In their spare time, the Caffrey brothers recorded with some pretty well-known artists and bands,
Linda Svan and David Bowie being just a couple.
Phil Caffrey, over 30 years, has made the decision to make a second attempt at releasing a solo album.
Before we speak to the man himself, let's take a look at Arbor in action, performing their hit single, Señorita.
Taken to an empty room and told to wait long. Go to ask someone in charge if I can use the phone. When refused my temper out, I feel that I must shout. Won't somebody listen? Then I'm back at out. Señorita, you are the perfect alibi to me. Don't stop and listen, please just try to see. Don't hesitate, don't try to frighten me.
The Arrow's There, a prequel of course to Up and Strumming.
Now, for most, I think the 70s is looked upon with nostalgia as one of the last truly iconic decades.
Some would argue that since then music culture has regressed, the industry losing the integrity as a platform for creatives.
The music scene now better resembles a business where ability comes second best to appearance and politics to profit.
The immediacy of the media may be responsible for some internet shockers, but it's easy to take for granted its benefits.
Do you think then, Phil, that the Caffreys as a band, living life on the road, could have been a lot smoother ride if, in this interconnected technological era?
I think obviously times have changed. I look back on when we first started in the 70s trying to get a recording deal, you had to go to London to play the record companies. They wouldn't come out of London. Whereas now, with Facebook, there was MySpace, YouTube, you can just record something, send it off to a record company. So you've got more of an instant hit. And also in the 70s, if you didn't have a recording deal, you didn't make records. Whereas now, us 3 could record something. We could put it on physical copies of CDs. It could be on iTunes by the weekend. That's how instant it is today. I think we would always, as a band, we were always a good support band, but looking back on it, we were never quite ready to take that big leap. We never got the opportunity to develop that far, but we were never given the opportunity. So I think we would have been the same now, to be honest, using technology for what it is.
So whereabouts were you when this picture was taken? I think this is a poster of the band.
That was 1975. That was the first LP cover up in Craster, up the Northumberland coast.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of it now, I don't think that photo particularly looks 40 years old.
No.
I think clothes come in and out of fashion.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at Adidas tops and things like that,
exactly.
They've been in and out. So really, that was a good photograph. It was a good time.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say that.
So the sorts of problems I guess you'd encounter on the road, it's one of the main ones, having to travel to gigs rather than, as you say, just being able to, video something as you do at home and it's there the next day. Like, do you think that if you could have just done that at the time, it would have saved a lot of heartache?
Oh yeah, I think it would have done. When you think we would travel to London, and in those days it would take about 5-6 hours in a van, especially our van, it wasn't great. And when you'd get there, we'd be supporting a band. So when we went on stage, there'd probably be about 30 people in the audience. And it wasn't because people had heard us and didn't like us, they just hadn't heard us and they weren't interested in the support band. So then you travel back home again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think in some respects, if you look at a lot of the programs that are on television now, I think it was Sting said that a lot of young people today, because of all the programs, reality programs, they don't seem to want to serve their apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of serving my apprenticeship. The disappointment, it's how you deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the business.
Yeah.
Now, despite tribulations of life on the road, you did suffer some casualties along the way.
Not literally.
No, not literally. Despite the non-physical human casualties, you and your brother still found enjoyment in performing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think the ethos of the Caffreys is perhaps best described by this snippet of a video, an interview that we shot prior to the show. And it is your brother Peter, I think, that is telling us a little bit about his definition of making it.
A lot of people say to me for a part, oh, he's not annoyed that you didn't make it. And I always say, what's making it? You know, I'm with my brothers now. I think that's making it. It's still performing with my brothers is making it. Still enjoying playing is making it. It's not to say that you've got a lot of money that you're going to be happy, you know. But just being around my brothers in my 60s, I'm really happy.
So, Phil, do those words resonate with you, and do you think that success should be measured by the enjoyment and rather than commercial success?
I think it depends on what kind of person you are. You've got to remember, me, Peter and Paul first made music it was in the, as you said earlier, it was in, I've got a picture here. This is from the late 50s.
Yeah.
That's from the late 50s. That's the three of us in my mum and dad's front garden in Holy Cross, Wallsend.
Mm-hmm.
And we would put gigs on. Paul was probably about 5, I was 7, and Peter was 10. So in those days, we were active musically then. And we done gigs, and agents wanted the three boys, as we were called, to do gigs. And my mum and dad, to be honest, my dad was a labourer, my mum was a cleaner. We were poor. They could have easily said, yeah, let the boys make some money for us. But they said, no, the boys will decide when they're old enough to decide. And I think, my mum and dad aren't around now, I don't think they meant to shape our musical lives, but I think they did. We've never been used to making money from music. We've always written our own songs. Mm-hmm. And I'd personally speaking, I just think it's far better to be yourself and just get on with it. People have said to me, oh, he's not bitter about not making it. And as Pete said, what is making it? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm still in a band with my two brothers, we're all in my 60s. And we were in a band when we were 6, 8 and 10.
That's amazing.
Is that not making it?
And
I think you're either a bitter person or you're not. We're not bitter people.
Well, as your brother Peter describes it, I think the fact that he's made it this far and is still performing
Correct.
is like the biggest thing for him. Like, would you say that that's enough for you, or would you like then to go on and have success?
I would still like to have success, of course.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like to have success if it was going to... It's a bit like if we'd have made it in the 70s, just say we had have done,
Mm-hmm.
I might have still been with my wife.
Yeah.
I might have had my grandchildren. So
yeah, you've got to think of it.
It's all relative, isn't it?
It is. And money, to be honest with you, money's important. It makes the world go round in some respects, but I think the music comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think if there was 2 gigs on a high street, one paid £1,000, but it was passing trade. One paid 500, but you could hear a pin drop and they would listen to everything you're doing. I will go and play in the £500 one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, definitely. So you'd hear everything.
Yeah.
Well,
as mentioned earlier, it is relevant because you are embarking now on your solo album.
Yeah.
you are. The first time was back in 1981 after the band split.
So determined, obviously, at that time to remain in tune with the industry, you thought, that you'd still continue to write and perform.
You were successful in getting some songs picked by artists like Kiki D, though you chose not to take part in the recording.
I'm just wondering then, why is it now, since the Caffreys reconvened in 1999 and went on to build quite, a substantial fan base, that you've decided once again to go solo? And what was it back in 1981 that meant you couldn't do so?
I think in 1981 I wasn't given the opportunity, to be honest with you, and I think also it was still an era where you had to have a recording deal to make records.
Yeah.
Didn't have a recording deal, had a publishing deal, and that's how we got the song to Kiki D. And I think now, 18 years later, when the Caffs first got together, me, Peter and Paul, you've got to remember that we've gone, within that 81 to 99, we played in another band for a year in the beginning of the 90s. Apart from that, we didn't play live to anybody. And people say to me, I find that staggering. Why did you do that? I done it because at the end of the day, money doesn't motivate me musically. If I'm going to do something musically, it's got to light me up inside.
Yeah.
If it lights me up, hopefully you come and see me, it'll light you up. So now I've got the chance, and I'm going to take that opportunity. And that's why and I think sometimes you're not in control of the time of something. I think things kind of happen. Like I fell into teaching, it wasn't planned. So really, I'm just making use of the opportunity to come down here now and promote this.
Because it just felt right at the moment, and you thought, if I've got the ability to do this, why wouldn't I?
Why not? And I'm still writing songs, so why not?
Yeah,
Exactly. Now, we've spoken a lot about the launch of your new solo album, and I'm sure many fans out there are itching to get a taste of some exclusive material.
And we do, of course, aim to please here up in Strumming, and that's why today we are given the honour, and it is an honour, of being the first to actually record one of the first tracks off your album.
So without further ado, here's Phil Caffrey with his first song to be ever heard from his new album, Measure.
Thank you.
How do you measure love without a word being said? How do you measure heartache without being misled? How do you measure feeling if you don't see the signs? How do you measure when all you see are blurred lines? 'Cause you cannot measure someone's grief by how many tears they cry. You cannot measure honesty if you've never told a lie. You cannot trade in kisses without feeling in your heart. You cannot, so don't even start. How do you measure empathy when it comes from within? How do you show forgiveness if you've never sinned? How do you measure friendship if you won't even share? How do you measure fear if you've never been scared? 'Cause you cannot measure someone's grief by how many tears they cry. You cannot measure honesty if you never told a lie. You cannot trade in kisses without feeling in your heart. You cannot, so don't even start. And how do you How do you measure being in charge when you're losing control? How do you measure trust if you don't believe a word I said? How can you measure pain if it's all in your head? But you cannot measure someone's grief by how many tears they cry. You cannot measure honesty if you never told a lie. You cannot trade in kisses without feeling in your heart. You cannot. You cannot. So don't even start.
I think that's probably one of my favourite songs from the show.
You think?
I do. Honestly, I was like, whoa! I was breathless.
If that's the first song of the album, then it's definitely off to a winner, I think.
It is, definitely.
Thank you.
In my
You're
opinion.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Welcome. And it was a very beautiful song, as you can tell by our reaction.
Yeah.
And it had a pretty poignant source of inspiration. And I think it delivers an important message about bereavement, really.
It did. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the context in which the song was written and what exactly it means to you?
Well, it was really funny. We lost the 7 of us in the family. Our 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I'm the second youngest. And it was quite ironic because there's Betty, well, there was Betty, who was 79 and she died of lung cancer in January. And I kept saying to people, you know what the Caffs are pushing their luck. Because Paul's 61, I'm 63 in July, Pete's 66, Emily's 73, Gerard's 74, Pauline's 77 and Betty was 79. And all 7 of us were still alive. Anyway, we sadly lost Betty, and I came home and my wife was a bit upset and I wasn't crying, and I just said to Jean, my wife, I said, you cannot measure someone's grief by how many tears they cry. And I thought, oh, I kind of like that. So I went upstairs and I wrote the first 2 sections of it in about 10 minutes. And if you look at it, the camera there, it's called Measure, but look how measured the writing is. Mm-hmm. It was easy to write, and I don't mean to sound blasé about this, because you've got, how do you measure, how do you measure, how do you measure, how do you measure? You cannot measure. Mm-hmm. It's getting the rest to fit in. And then I went back and wrote the rest of it. The song, again, I don't mean to be boastful, took me about 20 minutes, because it was kind of measured in a strange way. And it was a difficult time, and we played the live theatre on the Saturday, and I was off school because I teach, as I've mentioned. I had a chest infection and I was struggling anyway, but I decided I wanted to, I never even really ran through the song, but I kind of like to, I have to take slight risks when I'm playing. It becomes too comfortable. And I thought, I'm going to start with this song on my own.
So it was more of a spontaneous thing.
I had it planned in my mind, but the song is about that line, and it was funny, my second eldest sister Pauline was in the audience, and she says, I knew what the song was about.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because my fellow producer was actually in the audience as well, so it'd be interesting to hear his take of that as well.
Yeah, he was. He was there, and it's been very well received, and I'm really happy with it. And what's pleasing for me is I've written that when I'm 62, so I'm not 26, and I shouldn't say this, but I think I can still write.
Oh yeah.
I'd say so.
I'd say so. Definitely.
No, you know, so it's because really a lot of people of my generation, if you look at some of them, they're struggling as performers, because I don't know what it is. People have said to me, Phil, you're writing quirky lyrics. You're writing certainly not of someone of your age. But as I've said before, I don't think age matters. I think it's...
Oh, no, it doesn't.
It's about...
In my opinion, it doesn't. Anyway.
It's about attitude. It's about desire. It's about passion.
If you're an innovative, thinker, you do things innovatively, then it doesn't matter what time frame you're in. I guess it's always fresh.
So that song got references to that time.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you were playing at the National Theatre?
I'll never sing that song the same twice, you know. and I never will, because I kind of stop the guitar sometimes. I don't. I speak to people when I'm teaching. You've got to, when it's one guitar and one voice, you've got to create dynamics. That's why I've noticed I was stopping the guitar and just singing. I was hitting the guitar, and so it's not planned. But again, I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's nice
because it's spontaneous.
Oh, exactly.
I love spontaneity.
We do.
It's a long word for it, isn't it?
I'm impressed.
It's good.
Impressed with myself.
Why not?
8 scripts. Well, what was it? 9 scripts later, and she's learning. We've got there.
Very good.
Yeah.
So with that, I think it's about time we lightened the tone a little bit. Not that that was a sad story.
No.
Had positive tones, I'd say.
Exactly. But it's not just about the music on this quiz show today.
It's not the only exclusive.
And as ever, we are welcoming an all-new quiz round until we falter. Yeah, and we will explain a little bit more about that after Phil has played his next song.
Yep, here's his second exclusive and another track to be going on to the solo album, Beautiful Disguise.
Yeah, this is Beautiful Disguise.
You were my queen, you were my girl. I thought I was king of the world until I had a fall from grace. You disappeared, you left an empty space. Blue was black and black was red, a rainbow trapped inside my head. My spirit rising heavenly, your face a distant memory. A ray of sun lit up the sky, a burning question of desire. I'm frozen out, left in the cold, sitting watching life unfold before my very eyes. A beautiful disguise. I had a dream the other night. You were there in black and white. It was all so clear to me. I felt you touch me tenderly. You placed your crown upon my head. Was I mistaken or misled? I'm lost in time, so unaware. But when I woke, you were not there. A ray of sun lit up the sky, a burning question of desire. I'm frozen out, left in the cold, sitting, watching life unfold before my very eyes. A beautiful disguise. Lit up the sky, a burning question of desire. I'm frozen out, left in the cold, sitting watching life unfold before my very eyes. A beautiful disguise. If this belongs, goodbye.
You know, if these
It's
songs...
just me filling over here. Right?
If these songs,
like...
if they continue to get progressively better, they'll need to be carried out on stretchers at this rate.
No, I'm
Do
kidding.
you want to just ring the ambulance now? Yeah.
Let's do that now. Honestly.
On standby.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
I'm speechless.
Same.
Right, well...
Again, I'll never sing the same twice.
Yeah, I'm going to have to just continue on before I start crying. So this particular song was one of many that actually benefited from an interesting, inspirational capturing device. Oh, that's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister.
I believe it was, it entails the voice recorder. The voice recorder,
That we
yes.
have right here. Thank
Let
you.
me just Can I get a close-up here?
I mean, we don't mean to brag, but here on Strumming, we do have them attached to our necks at all times.
Oh, we
right.
do.
You might want to
do,
consider
yes.
that in the future.
Oh, right.
And that does lead us to our quiz.
Yes, that does. It does. While Phil lays down a few riffs, we'll take it in turns to, you know, come up with a line from inspiration that we find in the studio.
So basically, it's a bunch of adults playing I Spy with My Little Eye, but with a legend being in the studio, everything's cool.
Yeah, so here goes then. How do I turn this on? Do I just press record?
It's fine.
Just record.
Just,
Cool.
I think I'm doing it. Is that,
It's fine, just put it to
just put it on. Okay, brilliant.
I see you playing the game. You sit on your throne. I see you're walking tall, but you wanna be left on your own. I'm walking on the sidewalk, not ready to talk. Girl, answering me. It's your turn now.
Okay, let's go.
Do you need a hand? I understand. Let the light roll, let the light shine on us. We're sitting here, we won't make a fuss. Now it's your turn.
When you leave the studio today, we'll have to wave you away as you leave on the bus.
I won't make a fuss.
Oh God, I can't think of anything. Let me think.
What do you see?
Okay. Brendan's wearing his shoes. This is game for twos. I don't play with anymore. Let's look at the lights. They're all in my sights. Pick fights. They cause delight.
I can see your soul. Let the camera roll. Let us have a good time. I'm finding hard to make a rhyme. But who cares, 'cause we're here. We're enjoying ourselves. Let us get together one more time. Let the camera roll.
Something there anyway.
Yeah.
I like this.
So what did you
Absolutely.
think? What do you think, Sam?
I think that was a resounding success.
I reckon so.
I reckon.
And if you look at that last song, I used the recorder because I would never have written down "You were my queen, you were my girl."
You talked about it being a bit more poppy than your usual.
Yeah, it's a bit quirky, but it kind of works. So I kind of like things that are a bit quirky and a bit poppy.
Yeah, well, it's
Nothing
lovely.
wrong with it.
So that was Until We Falter. We faltered earlier than we anticipated, but thanks to Phil for carry on there.
It's a good job we've got an
Rescued us a
expert.
few times.
Yeah, so with his penultimate, is that the word?
Yes, now, obviously after all that
Penultimate track.
excitement.
Here's Phil Caffrey sailing down the river.
Like me if you agree, there for the world to see, just you and me, no one inside. Don't it feel so right? Try not to cross the line. You can have what is mine. Feeling sublime. A world without time. 'Cause I'm sailing down the river, sailing across the sea. Open up the heavens, all the water over me. Painted in silhouette, no time to feel regret. Head in the clouds, talking so loud. I'm captured from miles away. I've gone to a better place, suitcase in hand. It was not planned. sailing down the river, sailing across the sea. Open up the heavens, pour the water over me. 'Cause I'm sailing down the river, sailing across the sea. I'm sailing into your arms. You're my destiny. You're my destiny. You're my destiny.
If this is the start of this album, I will definitely buy that.
I'm wondering, would these been songs you picked off the new album? Are they your favourites?
No, not really. I picked Measure because it's brand new. It's the newest of them all.
Yeah.
Probably the most poignant. I picked Beautiful Disguise because it was a way that I'd written, which was slightly different. And Sailing Down the River, I had that idea for a little while.
Yeah.
But as you can see, I've got some lyrics typed and some that I've handwritten out. And again, with the new album, you know, I call them albums or CDs, it's the same thing. I've recorded 11 songs at the moment, and 7 of them have got lead vocals on, and they're just one take, and I'm not going to replace them. I'm not going to doctor them in any shape or form, because I just think I think it sounds like me live.
Yeah.
But somebody said to me about that, you're doing it from a position of strength. Maybe I am, I don't know. I'm quite comfortable. I think talking about what you were saying about modern music today, I think there's too much of that goes on, sadly.
Oh, yeah.
Using,
I would agree with
auto-tune on live gigs and
Oh,
things.
exactly.
You know, because I'll ask you to young people, who wants perfection? I don't.
Nah.
What is perfection?
I'm just going to agree. I'm
No,
not a
but
perfectionist at all.
But what is perfection anyway? I don't think people really want that.
I don't think it can be achieved, not full perfection, but I do try to make it as much as possible.
you try.
Well, we all try to do things to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just don't think everything should be. And I think songs should be done differently live to what they're on the CD. Because you've got the CD, listen to it at home.
Well, as you say, you perform songs and it's different every time, so obviously if it's in that moment, you think it sounds good.
More.
Of course it is, it's personal.
Vibe.
And what we've started to do with some of the Caffrey gigs, you know, my wife said to me, she says, Phil, you always pick the set. I says, yeah, I wrote the songs, I can do that. And she said, but you always pick the songs you like. I said, So we've done a gig at the Live Theatre, and my grandchildren come, and I got them to put bits of paper out on the tables. And I said to everybody, I've picked the first set, you as the audience are going to pick the second set. So they wrote down songs they wanted us to play. So I went on with a bit of paper and I said to the guys, so-and-so wants this. And there's a song off our last CD called Outside Looking In. And I said, this is for Gary, it was a woman who was there at the gig. Her husband was out in Afghanistan, in the army, and it was his favourite song and he couldn't be at the gig. And she said, can I record it? And she recorded it on her phone and she sent it across to him. So I done a request of a song what she picked for him. And I just think, that's your modern technology coming into play.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 70s, there was none of that.
I couldn't see you getting on a helicopter over to Afghanistan.
No, definitely not.
That would have been a big ask.
No.
Yeah, but maybe.
Little bit.
Maybe.
So no, they weren't my favourites, but I'm quite happy
There's
with
nice stories behind all of those, though.
No,
I'm glad I asked that.
very nice.
Well, it's funny, you know, again, people say to me, I hope I'm not talking too much, am I? No.
Don't worry about it.
I like listening.
People say to me, I've been married to the same woman for 45 years in July, and we met when we were 14. And women have came up to me and said, you've written a song from a woman's perspective. I said, have I? I said, yeah. And people have come up who I know are divorced have said, Phil, that song you wrote is hit divorce right on the head. You've got divorce in the song. How do you do it? The answer is I really don't know.
You weren't aware of it, were you?
I'm a sensitive person. Like if I see someone and they look kind of distressed and they look unhappy, I won't just care. I won't, like in school, say there's a young student walking along and they obviously look a bit distressed about something, I'll just say to them, are you okay? And in my mind, I'll say to myself, I wonder where they actually are at this minute in time.
Yeah.
Yes, they're in school, of course, physically, but what is making that happen? So maybe that's what allows me to write songs and to reach.
Taking it from other people's perspective.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that teaching environment, because we were going to ask you a little bit about, your role in teaching younger generations, because, you know, at the start of your career, I think you wanted to have private tuition, but you couldn't exactly get it at the time.
Yeah. Is this something you'd wish you'd had access to early in your careers instead of relying on self-teaching?
And obviously now, yourself and other accomplished artists, they do go out and teach the younger children. And I'm wondering,
well, you've got the likes of like David Moore and Trevor Burrus, who you've worked with.
Yeah.
They do invest a lot of time teaching the younger generation.
Yeah, I think it's something. Me, Peter and Paul, obviously, when we were at school, as I said before, we were poor. So if there was private tuition at the time where people had to pay, we wouldn't have been able to afford it. On the other hand, you could argue and say that we were probably the 3 most talented kids in the school, so it would have been needed. But I think you always need outside. You need someone outside looking in, really.
Yeah, like an outsider.
Yeah. And when I got asked to start doing private tuition in 2008 from the head of the music department at Eton Manor School, I said, I'll think about it. I wasn't keen on it at first, and then went back to her and I says, there's a couple of things. First of all, what if people can't afford it? She says, well, we'll cross that bridge if that happens. I says, and secondly, who would want me to teach them? And she said, I know 1 or 2. So I started with a couple, and it's built up, and I get, people use the word inspire. It's a 7-letter word, I think.
Let's just say, I think so.
It is. But it's a huge word. It's one of the longest words because you can't measure how much the effect you have on people. And parents and students themselves have said nice things about me, which I feel very humbled when they say them. But I think one of the reasons why I like teaching is I want to give back a little bit, and if I can use the experience I've had and got, even now, the good thing is that I'm still making music, still recording CDs, still doing this.
Well, as your brother Peter said, yeah, that's a big aspect for him. But I think we've actually got a clip of you performing on stage. Well, a girl, one of your students that opened for you, yeah.
That's correct.
So that shows like the kind of progress you've made since starting out when you weren't sure about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, who said life was easy? Oh, who said life was fair? Who said no one gives a damn? No one even cares the way you're acting now. Lying, you left that all behind. You've given up, you've given in. I'm a sucker of that kind.
After watching this clip, what is it that makes you actually want to give back to younger artists?
Because we've talked a bit about, you know, the process, but, you know.
I think there's 2 reasons. People have said to me, why do you, on a Saturday night, put a gig on for young people? I do it for 2 reasons. I do it because I want to, and I do it because I can. So basically what we do in the private lessons, what we have at school, we just take that from the room to the stage. And if you looked at the live theatre thing there, Sophie, the girl who was singing there, she was probably 15 there. She's singing in front of 200 people at the live theatre. And what's kind of ironic, sometimes I teach singing, but I think I teach performance, because some of the students who I teach, they might well have been with me, as I say to them. One girl in particular, she had 9 lessons of 20 minutes, and she went from being quiet to actually then singing.
Yeah.
That's 3 hours.
So do you think this
So
is
it's
what
9,
motivates
20
you?
minutes is only 3 hours. So it's a case of couldn't be
that.
9 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock going on stage, but it's over a period of time.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of, people have said that I kind of instill in the young people I teach this confidence, because I say to them, can you sing this song? No, they can. So I say, I want a yes or a no answer. And they say yes. I say, well, why are you scared? The time to worry is if you can't do it.
Oh yeah.
And if we are rehearsed, and again, if you're rehearsed and you can do it, then if you're rehearsed and you're slightly nervous, you'll still get away with it.
Yeah.
Because you're rehearsed. If you're under rehearsed and you're nervous, you could well struggle.
Yeah.
You're quite conscious then of the fact that, you know, you might be bringing up the next generation of artists. Is that something that motivates you, or is it more because you didn't have these opportunities when you were young?
That's a good question. You've given me some good questions. You know, I've never really thought about things, to be honest with you. I got the opportunity to start teaching. Then I thought to myself, I want to put a gig on. I want to take this from school. And I always put the gigs outside of school, live theatre or wherever. And I just think it's I record them also singing and burn CDs off, and I date them. And I always remember one of the first ones I gave to a girl, the date was on, and she said to me, she was 13 at the time, she said, I'm going to keep this, and when I've got a baby or a child, eventually, I'm going to let them hear what I sounded like when I was 14, 13. And I thought, I never thought. So I think now, because you can always say things like, oh, when I was your age, I was like this or I was like that. But if you tell me, this was me, that's me singing. So really, I think it's grown really, it's developed. And I'm always willing to move things around and change things, because that's what, like I said about that song, Measure, at the live theatre, I don't like to become too comfortable about things. So it has developed. And I think the lessons, again, a student a few years ago started doing A-levels, and she came for a lesson with me this morning. She says, I'm really stressed. I says, hey, if you want to stop your lessons with me, because she says, Phil, it's the last thing I would stop. I need to come in here for half an hour and make music with you and not worry about A-levels. So there's that kind of stress relief.
Yeah, like freedom kind of thing.
It's enjoyment and it's pleasure. And I suppose in some respects, it's a bit like how some children and parents pay for children to go to soft play or go and play football. Having a lesson with me, some people have said it is a bit like, it's enjoyment at the time. And I think it, as I was saying before to you when we were just chatting before the show started, I do think that if you can deal with a performance, if you can deal with being in the public eye, that is a life experience.
Yeah.
It's something you can't, you can't buy that. It's so really, again, I'm not answering your question very well. I'm just rabbiting on. I just love teaching. I get, again, very humbled when young people, some of them have been with me for 6 years, having lessons. It's a long time to stay with one person for 6 years, having lessons every...
I think it's nice as well that you're getting them to come on stage with you,
yeah,
rather than people at the same level.
Again, that is... I just do it, and somebody said to me, you get it, and this is their opinion, not mine, you get it so right because you're there, but you're not there. And it's difficult. So what we do also, if a student is possibly, there's a part in the song which they've got to really go for it, I will sing it off mic beside them. So people will just think, oh, Phil's singing away, which I am generally all the time. And we do harmonies, so it gets them to learn how to sing in tandem with someone else. And they all seem to love it. And they all want to play live, and I think I've hit on something which is, it's not for me to say whether it's good or not. I think it's unique. I think it's slightly different.
Yeah. It is.
And again, that's what I like to try and create in what I do.
Good.
Thank you.
So, a slight tangent, but as ever,
slightly.
We like a good tangent every now and again. But now, let's get back on track, shall we? As promised, you do have one final song to perform tonight. And of course, for any Die Hard fans out there, they'll be glad to hear it is a Caffrey's classic.
It is.
But before that...
Will we?
Samantha?
Before that, tradition dictates that we get you to sign our lovely strumpet.
Yeah.
Should we do this?
Lie that one on
I
there.
will just hand this over to you very carefully.
This is a good idea, actually. Shall we sign it anywhere?
Just
anywhere you like.
Just go for it. Yeah.
There we go.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so here we go.
So remember, guys,
yes.
if you want exclusive samples of the tracks that we do play on each episode, then do check out our radio show,
you know what,
which airs every Thursday from 7 p.m.
Do apologise for this. Yesterday we were clouding the airways with last week's guest, Lauren Moore, whose episode will reside underneath this one. So, all you need to do is search up Strumming on YouTube and subscribe.
So if that wasn't enough, there are also a various myriad of social media sites where you can get in touch and keep up to date with what's going on here at the studio. For example, we do have Instagram and SoundCloud, which will feature, of course, our upcoming competitions, but which will air on the radio, behind the scenes material, and of course, general bands.
Like me and Bryn playing for Bryn's cat with this.
This keyboard right up here.
This keyboard, right here. Yeah.
It's a must-watch, that one, by the way.
It's a must-watch, yes.
So, Phil, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you
and
for
I think
having me.
everyone here at Up and Strumming does wish you all the best with the release of your new album.
Yes, we do. So join us next week for our 10th episode special, and we'll have a couple of distinguishing guests, one an aspiring artist and the other a representative from a recording label. Do I hear wedding bells?
No, I think that's just Phil getting started to play us out with his final song, which is Cherry Picking.
Until next time,
As ever, keep strumming.
You took my heart, you took my soul, you branded me out of control, picking cherries from the tree, always shouting me, me, me. You stole my heart, you stole my soul, you let them go for silver and gold. How much money did you make? How much pleasure did you take? Sometimes there are no reasons why people change their alibi. You were like the weather girl, sometimes blowing cold. Your beauty fills an empty space. Self-destruct was written on your face. Your reflection told you lies. You took my heart, you took my soul, you branded me out of control, picking cherries from the tree, always shouting me, me, me. You stole my heart, you stole my soul, you let them go for silver and gold. How much money did you make? How much pleasure